I'm Josh with 9 Reviews here for Midway USA, and today we're taking a look at the part selection, the kitting out process, the build, the setup of this rifle here in front of you. This is, of course, the Geissele URG-I. Now, for those of you not familiar with the URGI, this is a commercially available product from Geissele. It is a complete upper receiver group, and it is sort of clone-ish, clone-adjacent, or an homage type of product to the actual URGI, which is in use by SOCOM and replaced the Block 2. Now, if you want to learn more about the history around that implementation and changeover, as well as if you want to see this actual rifle shoot, be sure to head over to the 9 Hole Reviews main channel and check out the practical accuracy episode on this rifle. Spoiler alert, this thing is a monster. Henry cleared the 500-yard service rifle course with 0 misses, and then tagged 650 and 725 with first-round hits. That generated a lot of questions and comments, asking us to go over the setup here, and frankly, it pushed this rifle to very quickly become one of our core reference pieces that we use to measure many other rifles against, especially modern rifles like this. Before we get into the actual build and the kit out of what accessories we have here and why, there's a very important piece, which is that why. Why is this setup in the way it is? And frankly, anytime that you are building out a rifle or kitting out a rifle, you should be asking yourself, what do I want this rifle to do? What am I trying to achieve with this particular firearm? For us, when we first ran this rifle on our show, on the practical accuracy course, our configuration was slightly different than this. But those of you who have an astute eye will note that we had a PEC, and that is now gone. We didn't have the bipod, that is now here. And there are some other small minor modifications which I'll talk through. But the removal of the PEC and the addition of the bipod were very specific choices, because originally we had this sort of configured as a recce style GPR build, which would be wanting to have general purpose capabilities with IR, white light, and whatnot, as well as some decent distance capability and a blend of that type of configuration. We've really sort of morphed what we want this rifle to do to be a bit more orientated towards scoped or precision-based carbine. And as such, the addition of the bipod and the removal of the night vision or IR capability. Now, let's talk about the actual configuration with the knowledge in mind that this is sort of pseudo-designed as a scoped carbine with precision-oriented stuff, AR precision-oriented stuff in mind. So still retaining quite a bit of the low-end fighting capability, but also being able to push out a bit longer than a more traditional basic AR. As you might imagine, the guts of this thing are indeed the URGI complete upper itself. Now, this is available on Midway, sold as a Geissele complete product. They come in 14.5, 11.5, and 10.5 inches. This is, of course, the 14.5. So it is going to come with a pin and welded muzzle device, which is a surefire muzzle device as it ships. That is the one thing about this actual upper that we changed in terms of the actual guts of the upper. The only reason we swapped is because we had a number of chemo suppressors floating around that we were going to be using for this particular build. This one here happens to be the Sandman K with a Liberty Defense suppressor cover. Those are phenomenal. This upper runs a 14.5-inch barrel with a mid-length gas system. Geissele has a pinned gas block as it ships. And it also comes with the Geissele airborne charging handle and bolt carrier group, as well as a Geissele H1 buffer and their braided spring. The combination of the buffer configuration that they send this with, along with the mid-length gas system in a 14.5-inch barrel, as well as whatever gas port size they've actually got underneath this thing, produce an extremely soft shooting rifle. The impulse on this is very easy to control, and it just feels like butter as it's running. It does seem like it's tuned and configured for hotter ammunition. So things like the IMI Razor Core 77s that we ran on our practical accuracy run and that we shoot a whole bunch of here on our show, full power 5.56, the M193 stuff, that's what we're feeding this rifle. We have shot it with PMC bronze, which is historically sort of tended to be known as a lighter loaded round. And if you're shooting it with something like that, or if you go into the steel case stuff like the Tula, the Wolf, whatever else, where it's very underpowered or inconsistent, that feels like it's on the undergas side with this particular setup. This is definitely configured in a way that it wants to shoot the performance ammunition and or just generally slightly hotter ammo like full power 5.56. Obviously the addition of a suppressor sort of blows all of that up because of the added back pressure coming into the system. So that would be sort of the general feedback around the upper itself. If you guys want, we have videos again shooting the accuracy out of this gun. This particular rifle groups sort of average without the suppressor. With the suppressor, it was grouping an inch for 9 shots. Quite fantastic. Having then had several other URGI uppers come through the show, this was like the worst grouping one, unironically. All the other ones were grouping like inch to inch and a half with 9-shot groups without a can. This one was closer like to the 2 or 2 with the flyer, and then you had with the can, it shrunk this thing down to again inch or sub-inch on 9 shots. So pretty excellent with factory ammunition. Now the lower here is just a mil-spec forged lower with a standard trigger guard. The trigger in this, we did feel it was fitting to pair this with the Geissele trigger. So this has the SSAE, which is a 2-stage trigger. I've gravitated towards 2-stage triggers over the last few years. Feel like I can shoot them just as fast as single-stage triggers. I like sort of that added take up when I'm doing more precision-based stuff. I think a lot of that's personal preference. And frankly, there are a bunch of really high-quality triggers that are out there. You don't have to necessarily spend the type of money for the Geissele trigger. There's some other ones out there that are really nice. The trigger itself isn't really going to make or break the rifle. It can make it nicer to shoot, be a little bit faster, a little bit more precise, but for the most part, a lot of that just comes down to marksmanship fundamentals. Now, when we talk about the pistol grip here, this is an Ergo Deluxe pistol grip. I'm a big fan of this one. The palm swell feels really nice, and the angle's not perfect for me, but it's sort of the one that I've gravitated towards. The safety here is the Radian safety, and I have it configured in 45 degrees. I like 45 degree safeties. No, some people don't think that particularly matters. I like having the ambi on here, not really for like functional capability all that much. I'm very rarely using it unless I'm shooting this in a more precision oriented environment where I tend to like to have my firing thumb on the outboard side of the gun when I'm doing precision stuff. So having the safety there is nice. It's a basic mil-spec buffer tube. This is the B5 SOP mod. This is one of my favorite stocks. It's sort of like the perfect balance between being just a regular carbine stock and also giving you just a little bit of the nicety of having some extra surface area to rest and to make contact with your face on. I think one of the most overlooked areas that there is on an AR is the stock selection. And I don't think people necessarily are paying attention to the right thing in general when they're looking at what stocks to add to their firearm. Paying attention to what the actual back of the stock looks like and how that mounts into your shoulder, as well as what the surface area is for contact on your face and how and where it does contact on your face in relation to the height of your optic. Critical components for me. I'm loving the B5 SOP mods for that with these slightly higher than standard height mounts. So let's talk about the mount. This is a Badger Condition 1 mount at 1.7 inches. 1.5 or 1.54 being the more traditional height mount, and then 193 being like the tall stuff for optics. This sort of bridges that gap. It's perfect in the middle, and I'm actually a big fan of it. I don't know if it's like the end-all be-all secret sauce, but I can shoot a 193, I can shoot a 154. This one, to me, just feels like it's a good middle ground option for, again, something where I'm going to be spending a good deal of my time in the prone position, again, shooting more precision-based scoped carbine with this, but where I still want to be able to be just a little bit more heads up if I'm doing more of, again, sort of the 100 or 200 and in type of shooting, or the real close stuff inside of 50. One of the things you guys are going to see is that we swapped how we had this optic mounted from the original episodes. We went with an RMR from a 509T because of some of the height issues, and that's ultimately what we're getting to, is switched out from using the actual just Badger mount, inline 12 o'clock sort of footprint mount for the RMR, into this Parker Mountain machine mount, because it allowed the Optic to come down, and then switching from the 509T to the RMR, like base RMR footprint, also felt like it was dropping the Optic a little bit. For me, these inline 12 o'clock red dots, they're cool, but if you're actually using them to try to shoot, I find that I'm losing way too much contact on the stock, and I'm not getting that consistent mount that I want with the at least start of like the meaty portion of my jaw. And so I wanted to get this as low as possible. I'm not in love with the fact that it's an open emitter on a rifle. I tend to like closed emitters on rifles, and so this is sort of a compromise. It's something that we're still working out and playing with. Now to the Optic, which is arguably like the most expensive thing here, including the actual rifle. This is the Nightforce ATACR 128. It is an exceptionally expensive optic. Do you need this? No. If you were kitting out your own, you definitely don't. However, these are very nice in terms of being biased toward what we want this rifle to primarily be doing, which is more of the scoped carbine, precision carbine based stuff, while still retaining an LPVO. This is probably one of my primary choices in this area. If I were to be shooting mostly 200 and in, 100 and in, general purpose or closer range guns, I actually, having now shot this a bunch, would probably not be running this optic. There are some other optics that my eye just picks up better up close. In terms of LPVOs in this larger, sort of like more expensive premium bucket, the Vortex 1-10, I tend to see and pick up better up close. The PLX-C from Primary Arms, I seem to see and pick up better up close. The top end of this, I like more than those particular optics. And as a result, it's on the rifle where I'm shooting majority top end work with it. Again, back to that why. Let's get up onto the rail here and we'll wrap this thing up. We have the Ergo rail covers with Slate Black Industries slate grips. The configuration of these allow the rail to not only have better traction, but insulate you from heat. Also, you're not beating crap out of your rail, especially on again, where you're doing precision carbine work and like slamming the fore end into barricades and braces a bunch. Additionally, up front here, you'll see we have a scout light here. This is one of the mini ones that takes one of the single cell 350 or 360 series batteries. This one happens to be from Mod Light. It has their PLHV2 head. We have our own makeshift light cover here, which is a Hollow Sun bikini cap cut and then 100-mile-an-hour tape onto the light head. This is mounted in with an Arisaka mount, and we've got one of the tape switch, the mod buttons on here. And then lastly, we have the bipod. And this bipod configuration, this is the Harris, the 6 to 9 inch Harris. We've got a pod lock configuration set up on here, and we have replaced the linkage here with an American Defense mount that has QD capability, which is nice, again, from the concept of being able to run this again is sort of more of a GPR if we wanted to. Not only is the QD relevant, but shrinking the space between the actual bipod itself and the connection point into the rifle is good in terms of controlling the apex and sort of how the rifle sits on top of the bipod. If we can get it deeper and deeper into the bipod, that's really where we want it to go. Additionally, on the bipod, we've got this little field mod. It's just a piece of paracord tied up a certain way. We followed instructions from the guys at Ridgeline, and it just hooks nicely into the pod lock when it's out of use, sort of stow it. And when not, you can give this a nice hard yank and it will deploy the legs of this bipod in a quick deploy function. So just to round this out, the only other major thing to talk about is sling attachment. So we have added a basic M-LOK QD cup here at the front. We've got one of the Magpul ASAP QD cup plates here at the back. The stock on the B5s have QD plates in them. And the Geissele URG-I rail also has a QD cup plate here near towards the receiver end of the rail. Plenty of options for QD cups here. Do you need all of these different ones? No, but depending upon how and what I'm doing with the rifle, I tend to like the versatility of being able to align the sling in different areas. And so that there is the 9-hole reviews URGI configuration as it stands today. We're always tinkering and tweaking with different parts on the rifle. The most important thing that we'll leave you with is that initial commentary. When you're configuring your own setup, what are you trying to get the rifle to be able to do And are the choices you're making with gear, the configuration of those pieces of gear, is it conducive to that goal? Those are the key pieces that you got to take away from a session like this. I hope this sort of helped you walk through some of those elements and components. And until next time, we'll see you on the range.